Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shautam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be covering Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 17, verse 53. So just to set up the context, previously Lord Krishna, he is conversing with Uddhav. He is giving instructions to Uddhav. And these instructions are to be conveyed to Nar Narayan Rishi in Badrika Ashram with that, mindset. And when you have to take a message, if someone gives you a message, then you just say, okay, you may not pay attention. But if you have to convey that message to another person, then you want to make sure that you understand the message very well. So that's why Uddhav is asking various questions to Lord Krishna to make sure that when he conveys the message to Nar Narayan Rishi in Badrika Ashram, it is conveyed as Lord Krishna intended. And it's not missed out in the details. Right? So, it's very important that, if somebody says, go and get something, or you should do something, we may just ignore at times. But if somebody says, wait a minute, you have to give this instruction to someone else that they, human beings should do something like this, then you have to be very careful because you don't want the message to be distorted. And that's the essence of disciplic succession. In Parampara system, we are like postmen. We take the message from one place to another as it is without modifying the content of the message. So Uddhav is given that task. So he's actually setting an example as how we should be taking the message. And this narration is later recited by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And at the bank of Ganges, which is Yamuna. And later, this was recited by Sutta Goswami to the sages at Naimisharanya, and the sages were headed by, their spokesperson was Shaunaka Rishi. So today we'll be covering 53rd verse. Putra darapta bandhunam sangamaha pata sangamaha Anudeham vyatyayate swapno nidranugo yatha. Putra, of children, Dara, wife, Apta, relatives, Bandhunam, and friends, Sangamaha, the association living together, Pantha, of travelers, Sangamaha, association, Anudeham, with each change of body, Viyanti, they are separated, Ete, all this, Swapnaha, a dream, Nidra, in sleep, Anugaha, occurring, Yatha, just as. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The association of children, wife, relatives and friends is just like the brief meeting of travelers. With each change of body, one is separated from all such associates, such as, just as one loses the objects one possesses in a dream when the dream is over. Purport. Pantha Sangama indicates the momentary association of travelers at hotels, restaurants, tourist spots, or, in more traditional cultures, freshwater wells and walking paths. We are now associated with many relatives, friends, and well-wishers. But as soon as we change our material body, we will immediately be separated from all these associates, just as, upon awakening, we are immediately separated from the imaginary situation of a dream. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Janant Kore Vaishnavind ki jai. One becomes attached to the sense gratification of one's dream, and similarly under the spell of the illusory concept of I and mine, we become attached to so-called relatives and friends who gratify our sense of false ego. Unfortunately, each fleeting egoistic association covers our real knowledge of the self and the supreme, and we remain hovering in material illusion, futilely endeavoring for permanent sense gratification. One who remains attached to the bodily concept of family and friends cannot possibly give up the false egoism of I and mine, or I am everything and everything is mine. Without giving up material sense gratification, we cannot become steady on the transcendental platform of devotional service, and therefore we cannot relish the actual flavor of eternal happiness. Unless one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, accepting Lord Krishna as one's only friend, one cannot give up the hankering for temporary and superficial material relationships. A traveler far away from his home and loved ones may strike up superficial conversations with other travelers, but such relationships have no ultimate meaning. One should therefore revive one's lost relationship with Lord Krishna. We are constitutionally part and parcel of Lord Krishna, who is the reservoir of all spiritual pleasure. And our original relationship with him is full of love and happiness. But because of our desire to enjoy independently from him, we fall down into the confusing, meaningless network of material relationships created by Maya. An intelligent person realizes there is no actual pleasure or satisfaction for the soul on either this planet or any other material planet. Therefore, like a weary traveler exhausted from his journey, he should go back home, back to Godhead, for eternal peace and the faithful servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatadham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Very instructive verse. This is. So prior to this, Lord Krishna, once again in this chapter, he is identifying Varnashram, mainly directed towards karmis or karma yogis. Hare Krishna. And here, and his instruction is given, and of course, Srila Rupa Goswami elaborates in Nectar of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Prabhupada, where it is elaborated how one, when associated with the body, is building up relationships and getting more and more attached. So when one takes birth, one is influenced by the material energy, right? The three modes of material energy are known as gunas as well. And guna also means ropes. So we are bound by the rope. And we are far away from our home. So those are the two situations that we'll be looking at. And now very interestingly, people say, why? Why is it bad? Why is it bad that, we should not associate with our body, we should not take care of our relatives and all that? Taking care of relatives is part of responsibility. So we are not supposed to give up our responsibilities. Yet at the same time, we should not be attached to those relationships on a bodily platform. there are two different platforms. One is, there is a personalist and impersonalist, and then again there is conditioned and liberated. So conditioned state is when one associates with the body, and liberated state is when one associates everything in relationship to Lord Krishna. So we should not give up our duties, but we should very much be, focused on our, association very carefully, and only associate with with beings. And this is strange. Means today, even in this material world, things are even deteriorating further. Like sometimes we we love things and we misuse people. We exploit people. The Vedic tradition teaches us that we should be exploiting, but not exploiting. We should be utilizing material energy in the service of the Lord. Materialist things thought at that time also, like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksh. Hiranyaksh means who was very much attracted to gold, so he wanted to extract so much gold. Hiranyakashipu, so much oriented towards sex and gold again. So too much into sense gratification and acquiring more and more aham mameti, I and mine. So they were exploiting. But devotees, we don't exploit. We utilize everything in the service of the Lord, because everything belongs to the Lord. And so it is very important for us to take the lesson that we should not be attached to the body or relations with respect to body. We should not become attached. There's a very nice example given in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Devashi Narad, he is trying to instruct a family man, a grihastha. And this is more directed, this verse is more directed towards grihastha. Why do I say that? Because brahmacharis, in brahmacharya, they live in the Gurukula. So at school, under the guidance of their spiritual master. So as they're living in Gurukula, they don't know what's going on at home. So they have very little attachment to the family at that point. They just know that, yes, this is my parents, this is my siblings, but apart from that, they are not interacting on a daily basis. Vanaprastha, they have left home and they have so they have already created that separation from those attachments. And then sannyasi is completely a person who is dedicated to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are the different ashrams. And only grihastha, who is responsible for, he has a wife, he has children. So there is a tendency for a grihastha to become attached to these bodily relationships. And why shouldn't one not be attached? So Devashi Narad, he tells one person, so let's go back home, back to Godhead. But then he is too attached. So because someone is too attached, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajantanta kalevram tam tam evati kantya sada tad bhav bhavita. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever one thinks, at the last moment of his death, of his life. So at the moment of death, the last moment of his life, whatever one thinks, tam tam evati kantya sada tad bhav bhavita. That one attains because of the providence. So that is the case. There is also a story of Puranjan and Puranjani, where Puranjan was meditating on his wife Puranjani, so in the next life he becomes a woman. So somebody may say, okay, that's not as bad because I'm still getting a human form of body, but actually it is degradation as per the Vedic culture. Now another aspect is, if someone is too much protective towards the family, the Shastras tell us that they sometimes take birth as dogs guarding the family. Now that's again a degradation, because a dog, being an animal, a lower species in the mode of ignorance, does not have the intelligence to get spiritual realization. Now some people, they are very much into hoarding wealth. We hear of so many, kings and, big leaders who just acquired wealth and they, kept it at sacred places. And when later on people went and they excavated those places to retrieve the wealth, the treasure, the gold and jewels and so forth, they would find there are snakes out there. Snakes are normally guarding. Why? Because these kings and these leaders, they were so much thinking of protecting the wealth, they took the form of snake to protect the wealth. Now, is that intelligent? No. That's not at all intelligent, because they are going into lower species of life and they are going to suffer many millions of years in various life forms, various yonis, taking birth again and again and progressing, and finally when they get the human form of life, again, what should one be acquiring? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So one should inquire, what is my purpose in this human form of life? Why am I here? And should endeavor accordingly. So it's very interesting that after a lot of effort, a lot of suffering, we get this human body of life. And then we utilize it for sense gratification just to fall back down. So this is a very interesting jal, like it is said. Very interesting network of material energy, Maya. Right? We say Maya Jal, a net of Maya. A boatman throws a net in the ocean to get what? To catch fishes. So Maya, she throws the three modes of material energy, the various influences on the living entities, to keep us bound in this material world. It's interesting that, we are also described as fish out of water. So when fish is out of water, what does the fish want? You give it food, will it be happy? No. You give it shade, if it's scorching sun, will it be happy? What does the fish want? Wants to go back in the water. That's what the fish wants. So this is where the Shastras, the scriptures, the sadhus, the saintly persons, as well as the spiritual master, our guru, they are constantly guiding us that you should not be, you are spiritual beings, we are spiritual beings, and our main purpose is to go back home, back to Godhead. Only then we can be happy, only then we can be peaceful, only then we can be satisfied. And otherwise, what is happening is, in this material world, we are trying to seek, sense gratification, thinking that this gives us pleasure. Well, that pleasure is not really pleasure. That is just momentary relief. Shastras also give another example. A king has given punishment to a, criminal. So we have turned our backs towards Krishna. So we are thrown into this material world as a punishment. And who's punishing? We are the ones who are punishing ourselves. That's the sorry state. Who's the king in this case? We are the king. We are making the decision. Because we have this minuscule freedom, we are misusing that freedom. We are saying, okay, I want to go to the material world and I want to enjoy. I want to be an Ishvara. I want to be a controller. We are a little controller. Right? We all have the capability to control some part of material energy. But then we, instead of controlling it to engage it in the service of Krishna, we want to control it to engage in our sense gratification. So in this way, when we are trying to control the material energy, we are not getting satisfied. Because we have fire, right? And you want to put out that fire. You're thinking, okay, if I put ghee, this fire will go off. Does it happen? When you put clarified butter in fire, what happens to fire? It grows stronger. And the stronger it goes, you're actually clutching to this material energy longer and longer, and you're not giving up. So that's our sorry state. So, and when we have given ourselves punishment, so this king, he has given punishment to the criminal. What are they doing? The soldiers are putting the criminal under water, his head under water. So underwater, can you breathe? No, you can't breathe. And the punishment is such that just before he is about to give up his body, means he's about to die, they would pull him out so that he can take a moment of breath. And that's when we think, I like it here. You understand the sorry state? Means this is where the momentary relief we get from the material energy. We think, oh, this place is very nice, without knowing that the very next moment we'll be put back underwater, under that distress. So that's the nature of this material world. Our situation is like that of a bicyclist. There's a bicyclist. He's going down the road and, he looks at a giant standing in the middle of the road and he says, well, I have the right of way, right? Means especially on our roads, we are so much about I have the right of the way. People should move away, when I'm on the road. So this giant, he doesn't move. And the cyclist, he goes and hits the giant. And the giant says, oh, you hit me, I'm going to punish you. The giant goes and draws a circle, picks up this man, puts him in the circle. He says, stay there. You don't move out of the circle, otherwise I won't leave you. And he takes the bicycle at a distance, and the giant is starting to break the handle of the bicycle. He looks back, and he sees that the man is smiling. Okay, he breaks the brakes of the bicycle. He looks back. He sees the man is still smiling. Then he breaks the tire, takes away the spokes and everything. He looks back, and he sees the man is still smiling. And he's about to break the frame, and he suddenly thinks, why is this man smiling? I'm breaking his bicycle. So he asks the man, why are you smiling? The man says, while you were not looking, I stepped out 3 times, you didn't catch me. That is our state. We forget that the purpose of the bicycle was to go from point A to point B, the destination. We are so busy playing with Maya and thinking, oh, we are so smart. We stepped out of the circle and came back in, and we are not getting harmed. But in reality, our very purpose is getting destroyed in the process. We are getting attracted by the wrong motives. The motive is to ask for forgiveness and then go back home, back to Godhead. Take to the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, and then just go back home. So our sorry state causes us to go through so much distress, unknowingly. And so materialists, they normally think, oh, this world is a nice place. Sometimes when we go out and speak at a nice affluent neighborhoods, and we talk about this world is dukhalayam ashashvatam, full of misery, dukhalayam ashashvatam, temporary in nature. They look at us in a weird way. They say, wait a minute, these people are really distressed. If they have to just come to the temple and see how jubilantly we are dancing, how much wonderful sumptuous prasadam we are enjoying, right? We are enjoying under the shelter of Krishna. So again, we are, serving, and just by serving, even taking prasadam is called prasadam seva. And even by serving in the right mindset, being grateful, for all the gifts that we have received. Nothing is ours. Even we ourselves are part and parcel of Krishna. We are not independent. Our very astitva, our very origin is from Krishna. So there is nothing ours in reality. Yet at the same time we feel proud of ourselves. That's our sorry state. Without knowing that yes, we should be, our constitutional position as is given in the purport is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera surubhaya krishnera nityadas. So as an eternal servant of Krishna, when we are engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, then we are, happy, then we are peaceful. Srila Prabhupada gave a very nice example of a screw when it's in part of a machine, right? When you have big machinery. Let's take the example of a car. And if there is a screw in the car that's holding the tires together, and you're driving the car has a purpose, and it's a big car. So now the screw, because it's part of the car, it has value. Now if the same screw becomes loose and falls down the road, does it have value? No value, right? So that is our state. So when we are not associated with Krishna, when we are not, directly linked in the service of Krishna, those are the times that we are losing our value. It's very interesting that when Srila Prabhupada was giving a morning class on and describing that this world is dukhalayam ashashvatam, one of the devotees, he asks that, Srila Prabhupada, why did Krishna create this world as dukhalayam ashashvatam? Srila Prabhupada strongly rebuked him. He said that Lord Krishna did not create this world as dukhalayam ashashvatam. You living entities have made it so. It is the living entities trying to do their own sense gratification and trying to exploit this material energy without knowing the purpose of their life, without knowing that everything should be used in the service of Lord Krishna, is acting as a thief. And then somebody can say, how are we acting as a thief? When Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Dallas, he gave a similar example, which was hard at that time for the devotees to follow. So once he was walking, from the Gurukul area, and suddenly they saw a nice beautiful estate home at a distance. And Srila Prabhupada said, who lives there? So there was a very rich man who used to own oil industry. He was the resident. He was the owner of that estate. So they said, oh, this guy is a really rich man. So Srila Prabhupada said, when you will meet him, what will you say? So one of the devotees said, Srila Prabhupada, we tried to approach him. It's not very easy to approach him. But I was able to give Bhagavad Gita to one of the guards at the gate. But he said, but if you approach him, what will you say? They said, we'll tell him that we have a nice school. We have nice program at the temple. We would invite him to the festivals. We will tell him that there is a Gurukula. And then Srila Prabhupada was quiet for a moment. And then when they were all done, Srila Prabhupada gave, no, you should tell him that, when death comes, he's a big thief first. No, that's strong, right? Srila Prabhupada can say that. Because he's, taking away from Krishna. And then you should tell him when death comes, all these guards and all these gates and the butlers, they won't be able to stop death. And then, when Krishna comes, he comes, for his devotees as the mother tiger, right? Means like for the cub, mother is very, still holding the cub in the teeth. But then the cub is comfortable because it knows this is mother. So that's the case of devotee. But when it comes for the materialist, it comes as death, right? Death personified. And then that is not very, that's like, when the tigress goes to hunt animals, those animals who are caught in her teeth, they don't feel the same comfort as the cubs do. They are like, oh, our life is at the end, So this is how Srila Prabhupada is giving them that, should tell him that, won't be able to stop death. And that is a big thief. When afterwards Srila Prabhupada, he left that location, means again, none of the devotees could muster the guts to approach the old man. And soon after, little time, the old man died, means the rich man died. And they felt sorry that they did not get the chance. And some even found like, okay, how could we have approached him? Well, Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur showed by example how this needs to be done. So Jayapataka Maharaj, he had brought a Calcutta businessman to the Mayapur temple. He had invited, and this Calcutta businessman, he was a pious man. He had come in white kota dhoti, grahastha, and he met Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada greeted him very nicely, said, yes, welcome. And he said that, what do you do? And the, businessman said, we make glass, I make glass, I'm owner of the factories. And Srila Prabhupada asked him, where does glass come from? He says, it comes from silicon, sand. It comes from sand. So he says, where does sand come from? And the man was pious. He said, sand comes from Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada at that moment says, oh, so you're a thief. And everybody laughed. This is during a morning walk. And even the businessman, he laughed. Like, yes. Okay. And as was the normal custom, the other devotees came forward. They were asking questions. Srila Prabhupada giving instructions. And when they were returning back, this businessman, he mustered some guts. And he said, I want to respond. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, but I also give, in charity. So Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he said, oh, you're a small thief. Give back some. So, and everybody laughed, including this businessman. So again, Srila Prabhupada tells us that when we are engaging in a sense gratification, we are acting as thieves, right? Very strong statements coming from very great personalities. So we should be very, very careful as how we are engaged in this material world. And when devotees, we engage, with our relatives, our mindset. See, it's very interesting. The materialists have families, grahasthas, and grahastha devotees have families. But the dealings from the outward aspect looks like same, but they are very different. Let's look at it. When a devotee is associating with the family members, then they are saying, oh, these are nice Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis that I have been given the responsibility to take care of. As part of my duties, I should take nice care of them and make sure that they are able to spiritually progress. So in a Grihastha is also an ashram. Ashram, what's the definition of an ashram? A place where one can make spiritual advancement. One can engage in spiritual activities. And Grihastha program is very nice. Because in Grihastha program, there are 5 main activities. One is they are engaged in deity worship, engaged in, welcoming the saintly persons at their home. Third is they make prasadam to make sure that, after offering bhoga to the deities, so they offer bhoga to the deities, and that prasadam, they make sure that people, even the lower animals are taken care of. And then they make sure that everyone within their, within the neighborhood is sumptuously fed. And then at the end, they eat prasadam for their own purification. So they purify the environment and they purify themselves. Prahlad Maharaj even identifies the glories of Vaishnavas. He says that what use is a Brahman who can't purify himself, while even a dog-eater devotee, a Vaishnava who is a dog-eater, he is a Chandal. But if he is a devotee, he can purify his whole family. So sometimes people are very proud of their varnas, right? But then understand that even varnas do not guarantee success for you. And this is also very nicely depicted in the Shastra. Once Devashi Narad, he was, going, and of course being a brahmachari, he goes places to places and sometimes to purify. So once he visited a temple, he saw a priest very nicely, taking care of the deities, doing nice aarti, proper offerings and all that. Shri Gauratai ki jai. Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Janant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. You talk of deities and they give darshan. Some blessings are right there. Hare Krishna. So this priest, he's taking very nice care, and he, comments on it. So the priest says, so Devashi Narad, where are you headed next? He's like, I'm headed to Vaikuntha to see Narayan. Oh, then the priest says, can you please ask him one question? He says, yes. So when will I go back home, back to Godhead? So he says, yes, I'll ask. And as he is on his way, he sees, a cobbler, right? He is fixing shoes under a banyan tree. And as soon as the cobbler sees Devashi Narad, he recognizes, immediately pays obeisances. Saintly person is here. And he also inquires the same question of Devashi Narad. Where are you headed, Devashi Narad? And he says, I'm going to see Narayan in Vaikuntha. He says, could you ask a question for me? When am I going back home, back to Godhead? He says, sure, I'll ask. And then Devashi Narad, he goes to Vaikuntha. And there he sees Lord Narayan. And he says, after doing stuti and proper greetings, he's inquiring about those 2 questions, the same question asked by 2 different personalities, the Brahman and the cobbler. And then the response he gets shocks him. Narayan tells him, Lord Vishnu tells him, that tell the Brahman that, after many millions of births he will be able to come back. But he is not coming back immediately. And then to the cobbler you should tell him that after this is his last birth. Right after this birth he is coming back home, back to Godhead. And Devashi Narad is surprised. He says, how could he be? That Brahman was taking such nice care of the deities. He says, okay, just tell them what you are seeing right here. And he says, okay. So Devashi Narad, he comes back. He goes to the temple to meet the Brahman. Now, interestingly, he didn't go to the cobbler. It also, even this small action shows us a great lesson. Do not ever hold a bad news. Bad news does not become good news over time. It actually becomes worse news. So as soon as there is a bad news, he's coming first to the priest, and he's giving this news. The priest sees him, immediately pays obeisance and says, did you get the response? He says, yes. Lord says that you will take many, many births here and you will not be going back home. He says, oh, you're just bluffing. You didn't go to Vaikuntha or met Narayan. You're just bluffing me. He says, no, I'm telling you the truth. He says, okay, then what was Lord Narayan doing at that time? Then Devashi Narad describes what Narayan was doing. He says, Lord Narayan was taking, through the eye of a needle, he was taking an elephant. He was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle. And Brahman says, elephant is so big, needle is so small and the eye is even smaller. You're just bluffing. Go away. And Devashi Narad is surprised at this response from the Brahman. Then he goes, he meets the cobbler. And cobbler greets him very nicely, pays obeisances, asks for his welfare. And then says, did you get the response? He says, yes, I got the response. Lord Narayan says that after this birth itself, you will go back home, back to Godhead. And Devashi Narad is, when he tells the cobbler starts glorifying the Lord. He says, by the way, what was the Lord doing when you met him? And Devashi Narad, he describes the same. Like Lord was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle. And then the cobbler is saying, oh, Lord is so amazing. He's in complete bliss. He's singing glories. And Devashi Narad is surprised. That, oh, how could that be? Means that Brahman is supposed to be very educated, but he has no faith. And this cobbler has such a strong faith. So now he understands why this cobbler is going back home, back to Godhead. But then there is always curiosity, right? How could this cobbler have such a strong faith? So he asks, how come you have? Then the cobbler points at this banyan tree under which he was sitting. He says, this banyan tree? By Lord's mercy, he kept this banyan tree under a small seed, such a small seed. And from that seed, this banyan tree has come. And that seed came from another tree. And that tree may have had many such seeds. And from all those seeds, so many other trees have come. And that tree's origin was also a small seed. So what's the big deal when Lord can do such wonderful tasks? What's the big deal that he is passing an elephant through the eye of a needle? So it's very important because we are constantly tested on our faith. We are constantly tested on our nishtha, or our ruchi, our asakti, how strongly we have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And so when a devotee is dealing with his family members, he is dealing with Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi. He is serving Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi. That's different than materialist, where they are saying, oh, my son, he needs such and such. Let me give him all kind of obnoxious food, which is greasy and so forth. And, allow... There's a very nice story once again. They sometimes even give their children abundant of money and facilities and all that. And what happens is the children become spoiled, means they are distracted by this material energy. And under the wrong influence, wrong company, they fall under the wrong company and they fall prey to so many bad habits. So those things happen. There is a nice story of a man who, he became orphan as a boy, and he was taken by his aunt under her care. He was growing up. And his aunt used to just, pamper him. She used to say, you are so wonderful. And sometimes he would go and beat up other kids, and she's like, oh, you're so powerful, you're so strong. And then sometimes he was, as he was growing up, he had no interest in studies, because she said, you don't have to study, you just enjoy. And so he started beating other kids, he started taking their things. As he grew up, he became a robber. And as a robber, he's robbing people, and he's, hurting others, and he's bringing things, others' wealth. And his aunt is saying, oh, you are so, you're so powerful, you're so clever, you're so shrewd, you're enjoying, just enjoy. And so once it so happened that he is trying to steal, and by mistake, because he was with that particular attitude, he kills someone, and he's caught. And when he is caught, he's sentenced to death. So before he's taken up to the, electric chair, he wants to see his aunt. So she comes and he says, I want to tell you something. He asks her to come closer. When she comes closer, he bites her ear off. And she runs out crying with all the blood oozing out of her ear. And his instruction was, if you had corrected me when I was small, I would not landed here. Right? So it's very important for parents and elders to guide their children accordingly. And they should understand that it's very easy to say, oh, this child is bad. But then if he's your child or if he's under your care, you have the responsibility to fix that. Saying that, oh, this person is bad and that person is bad does not solve the problem. The problem needs to be solved with a proper solution, with a proper attitude, with a proper mindset. And so, we should, and devotees, they are very careful. When they are taking care of their family members, they are knowing that they are serving these Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and they are responsible to take proper care, to give them nice prasadam, nice environment where they can advance spiritually. So that should be our mindset. So with this our mindset, and again this particular verse is saying that one should not be, attached to wife, to children, to family members, to relatives and to friends, because that will cause our fall down. And one should constantly seek the shelter of Lordship and think of the family members as Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis and provide a suitable spiritual environment where they can flourish and continue to progress, because they are in Grihastha ashram also interacting. So one should make sure that Grihastha ashram, the environment is kept so nicely that one can continue to make advancement in spiritual life. And to make advancement in spiritual life and to engage in devotional service, there is a very simple formula. Srila Prabhupada, he propagated Mahaprabhu's instruction, and the formula is just raise your hand and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Gantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Vande